At 7 o'clock, Aaron, would you read the notice of the first public hearing?
Please take notice that an application has been made by Travis and R. Kingsley, 9016-876, Caledonia, Minnesota, 55921, for a conditional use permit for an existing dwelling on less than 40 acres in agricultural district in Sheldon Township. Said applicant standing and making application are the owner of said described lands. A hearing on this application will be held in the Houston County Justice Center basement, City of Caledonia, Minnesota, 55921 at 7 p.m. on Thursday, May 26, 2016. All persons having an interest in the matter will be given the opportunity to be heard relative to the granting or denying of said application. This was advertised on May 12, 2016. A lot of this will be repeated for those of you who are here for the Board of Adjustment meeting, but the Kingsleys have a parcel of under 40 acres on which they have a non-farm home that does not have a current conditional use permit. They are wanting to demolish the existing home and build a new structure in the same farmyard in a way where the new home would go on their current yard and the old home would become their new yard. But it would all be the footprint of the existing farmyard, which is kind of up on a bench and hasn't been in agricultural production a long, long time. This parcel split occurred in 2007. Prior to that, this would have been a conforming structure. It's simply a matter now of bringing their situation into compliance with the ordinance as it exists. The township has been notified of this application, as have the 10 nearest neighbors. Again, I guess last time, if there's anything that should be added to that description.
Okay. Any questions from the planning commission? Okay, some of this is probably going to be repetitive. We'll probably ask you some of the same questions, but this driveway, you share that? I didn't know part of that. You share that with Mr. Johnson, is it?
Just the bottom part of the driveway,
Just the
there's
bottom.
an easement, and then his driveway's the top.
Okay. But you own the property right out to the river. That's your property, okay?
Driveway.
Yeah. Any other questions? Is anyone?
Mr. Chairman, this is kind of a hypothetical question I've had for a long time about, doesn't quite pertain to this specific situation, but, let's say the original lot was, let's say 45 acres. And they sold off 40 acres and kept the original dwelling on 5 acres. Now, let's say we go ahead and permit the original dwelling for conditional use. Is that second lot, 40 acres, is that still buildable if it meets all conditions?
No, if it's still be limited to one house per quarter. So if that house is the only house, already in that quarter, no more.
Okay.
There's limited.
Okay.
Any other questions from the planning commission?
If it's, and I'll just talk loud.
Yep.
If it's 45 acres and they take off 5,
It depends where
the
that
40
house is.
stands alone as a quarter.
If it's actually a quarter, but if it's a contiguous 40,
Right.
it may not qualify.
But if it was 45 and 5 was approved and taken off, and the 40 is a single
Right.
40,
If it was a separate quarter, and there was no house in it.
then you could
Right.
apply and qualify.
Right.
Well, and I think the difference to understand is if it was 5 acres, but it was in an open quarter, they could build as well.
Right.
People misunderstand it, they think 40 is the same as a quarter, and it's not necessarily. But that's not your issue.
No. Any other questions? Okay, is there anyone here that has any comments on this application? Okay, if not, Aaron, you read the findings.
The planning commission shall not recommend a conditional use permit unless they find the following. That the proposed use conforms to the county land use plan. And my analysis of this was that the proposal conforms with the plan. The plan's goal of preserving agricultural land and that all the building will occur on an established existing farmyard. If the applicant demonstrates a need for proposed use, it already exists. We're just addressing a situation as it exists on the ground. That the proposed use will not degrade the water quality of the county, and it's not applicable in this situation. Proposed use will not adversely increase the quantity of runoff. It's essentially a zero-sum equation where they're removing one house and then putting another house almost on the exact same spot. The soil conditions are adequate to accommodate this use. So this is the situation where we have, if this were a new undeveloped site with an application coming in, we would be rejecting it in that it is on a class 2 soils, but again, this was permitted while before those rules were even in effect. And if that was the time in which the use was permitted, we're simply changing the classification of the use, but not permitting a new use on that location. Is the analysis that I took. The potential pollution hazards have been addressed and the standards that the met's not applicable. The adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been provided or will be provided. It's not applicable. Adequate measures have been and will be taken to provide sufficient off-street parking. Not applicable. Facilities are provided to eliminate any traffic congestion and traffic hazards which may result from the proposed use. We had some talk earlier about the dual access on the driveway where it's shared. That may be something that they could look at in the future, but I don't know if we want to require it at this time. The condition of use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of the other property in the immediate vicinity for the proposed already permitted, or purposes already permitted. Again, this has been there for 50 plus years. The establishment of the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property or predominant uses in the area. This farmstead is probably the senior farmstead in the surrounding water corridor, so it would be the continuation of the same adjacent properties. Adequate measures have been or will be taken to prevent or control offensive odors, fumes, etc. That's not applicable to the situation. Density of any post-residential development is not greater than the density of surrounding neighborhoods. Not applicable to the situation. The intensity of any proposed commercial industrial development is not greater than the intensity of the surrounding areas, etc. Not applicable to the situation. The specific site conditions and such other conditions are established as required for the protection of public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. My analysis was that granting this will in no way threaten health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the public. If this conditional use permit is approved, I don't have any additional conditions I would recommend the board adopt.
Any questions on the criteria?
Just the one regarding number 7, as far as the access drive. This access drive is already in place for Mr. Chase, correct?
Yes.
So that already meets the criteria that is set forth in 110-29-19. I mean, the grade, the width, that's already been met, so that's not an issue even.
As far as I know, yeah, I guess I didn't look into his entire driveway.
I mean, it's where you tie into 76 or any other road, there's an elevation requirement and whatnot in that regard, so.
Yeah, I guess I don't know whether there is a permit from the state for that driveway. I would assume that given how
But
long.
the county has a criteria as well within our own.
For county highways, this is a state highway. Our criteria here would be a slope not exceeding 12% for the driveway, and they would meet
So if
that.
it's tying into something other than a county highway, we don't care about that criteria anymore.
Well, for a new home, they would look for access from whatever body has jurisdiction over that road. So in this case, a state highway, they would look for a access permit for a dwelling. I would think that given the length of time that this dwelling has been at that site. That
Well, I understand. But it's a new residence being built, there's an existing residence that was already built. Do we have anything to say about the access to whatever road, if it's a state, county, or township?
Yeah, we would review that when their application for their new residence comes in. At this point, we're just making compliant their existing residence so that they can proceed with an application for their new residence.
Well, and even later on, they wouldn't be required to bring that up to standard unless they're changing the driveway, right?
That seems right to me. I guess I would have to look into it further before
Yeah.
I give you a...
That's been my understanding. Anyhow, if they were resurfaced, blacktop or something, then they would have to be compliant. But if it is what it is,
The new dwelling might change something there, but again,
Yeah.
we deal with that when we got the
Yep.
application for the new dwelling.
I will make a motion that we.
I have one more question.
What?
What about the sewer? Is the sewer been looked at, updated, to be updated with a new home?
That would be again a part of their application for their new home.
Oh, okay.
And I believe that they do have plans to,
Okay. Yeah. All right, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I will make a motion that we grant the conditional use permit requested. Well, no, we don't grant it, we recommend it to the board.
No. Okay, we have a motion to recommend approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bob. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
That goes to county board on June 7th. Kind of quiet. Here.
You have 5 minutes to get up the time.
What is that?
Oh, you want me to run outside and see if they're sitting up?
See if it plays out there.
Pete is supposed to be coming, Pete Peterson, but I don't know. I think I hear him. We got 5 minutes.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question during this time? I've been looking on the website for the dates of the meetings and I can't find it anyplace.
The planning commission meetings,
Right, or the Board of Adjustment either.
normally we have them on the fourth Thursday of each month.
It's not posted on the website at all.
It's
No,
advertised
because-
in the Houston County News, that's the
Oh,
required,
okay.
that's the
Yeah.
required advertisement, Houston
Okay.
County News.
Okay.
But just for the record, our June meeting is going to be on the 16th. We're going to move that up. Okay. All right, we could look at the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Any question on the minutes?
I don't.
No question on the minutes? Everybody had a chance to look at them? Okay, if everyone's okay with the minutes, I'd entertain a motion to approve them as written.
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay, seconded by Jeff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, the zoning permits. Get a chance to look at the zoning permits? Any questions on the zoning permits?
None of them require any variances or any, they're just
no, these are all
standard
permits
permits.
that met all the requirements of the ordinance.
You need a
Well, actually, I'm sorry. If they did require variances, they've already sought and
Yeah.
received their variance.
Yeah, I thought there was one on here that Frank,
Yep.
he had a variance, didn't he?
Okay, any other questions on the zoning permits? Okay, if there are no further questions, entertain a motion to recommend approval of zoning permits.
So moved.
Motion by Bob,
Second. Go ahead.
seconded by Ed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
When did you say next meeting was going to be?
June 16th.
I'm guessing we'll get something in the mail.
Yes.
We only have one.
we got one of the other ordinance.
But we're going to have, only have one, but we got an ordinance, proposed ordinance change we need to discuss on the 16th.
Block on your read.
Might be a little meeting. I mean, we have a number of ordinances that we're going to look at.
So we're gonna have the information about those ordinances in advance so we can research on our own.
At least a week, I assume, if I can keep
Yeah.
going on that.
Yeah. Okay, it's 7:15, isn't it? Or 7:13, all right. We better wait a couple minutes for him. We jumped the gun on the last one. Made it look like Ed was late, but he wasn't.
None of my places to go, I appreciate it.
Okay,
Should be just
okay.
kind of- Talk about the ordinances, is this going to bring in the township input that was in that meeting you had?
Right, we hope township people are here. Yeah, and we have met with some township people.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah,
Make sure I can reserve for our township.
yeah, right.
So there'll be an invitation to township.
It's a public meeting, it's wide open. We should maybe send a reminder to the townships, but we'd encourage the township people to be there.
Sure.
A lot of the changes have potential impacts for the townships regarding driveways, roads, and, you know, it's good to get the input.
It's here, that's it. Shows up to.
Yeah, we can. But
Yeah, I don't see them often.
Advocate for section.
Okay, well, the public hearing is scheduled, and normally we have the petitioner here, but if he's not, he's not, so we'll go ahead with it. Aaron, will you read the notes?
Please take notice that an application has been made by Margaret Burkle Thorson, 8404 County 4, Easton, Minnesota 55943, for a conditional use permit for an existing dwelling on less than 40 acres on a parcel to be created by a parcel split in an agricultural district in Sheldon Township. Said applicant, standing and making application is fee owner of said described lands. A hearing on this application will be held at the Houston County Justice Center, Basement, Caledonia, Minnesota 55921 at 7:15 on Thursday, May 26, 2016. All persons having an interest in the matter will be given the opportunity to be heard relative to the granting or denying of said application. And this was advertised on May 12, 2016. This is a situation similar to the one that just was before you, except that in this case, they're looking to get the approval or the conditional use permit before they split the parcel, not afterwards. I believe this parcel will be sold in the near future, and that's why they're looking to do this. This is down in Yucatan Valley. It's I think it's greater than 40 right now. It might be 60 or 80 acres, but they're going to split off 20, which includes the house. Because it will be less than 40 acres, it will require a conditional use permit. They're not proposing any sort of construction or changes to the dwelling or the premises at this time. The township has been notified and has had the nearest 10 neighbors. The house has been in its current location since 1901. It sits on Class 2 soils. It's flat there. This location is also in the flood fringe zone. They did an addition in 1999, which was constructed in accordance with the regulations pertaining to flood fringe. It should be noted, though, that non-farm dwellings on new soil or new locations are prohibited in the floodplain. So if this were a non-existent structure already, we're just looking at the site, we wouldn't be recommending approval based on that. But again, because this was permitted prior, in this case, it was built in 1901, there was no zoning, we're not approving a new use at this point in time. We're simply changing the category of their dwelling. I guess if I would ask if the board has any questions, I would try to answer that.
Well,
Do we know how that parcel's going to be split, where the split line is gonna be?
We're getting into the-
And that's a class 2, is the rest of it a different classification?
Well, it depends on the split. And we do know they can kind of, I can't recall exactly what the lines are, but they have described to us, it's going to be, if you look at your map here, kind of on the northern side of the field that comes in front of the house along County 4 there. There's kind of a road at the bottom of that hill, they're going to draw a line about there that's going to come back and catch the house and the barn, I believe, and then continue southwest to meet the parcel. So it would be, the soils would vary, I guess. The house and the field in front of it are probably all class 2. As you get up on the slopes to the west of the driveway there, that's likely going to be a higher class soil.
And the intent is not to split this so they can have a second 20-acre parcel or whatever size it ends up being that they can sell and build another house.
We have the 1 per 40 still is in effect here, so when we grant these cups, that doesn't give them approval to build a second.
I mean, they've got the cup for the existing building, then they split the property.
Yep.
That second property will stand alone, they have to come and make application if somebody wanted to build a house.
Yeah, and I think if you look to the north here, the Thorsons also own that parcel, so they'll have more than 40 contiguous acres after this split. I think that they are keeping some options open for an additional building site to the north of there, but we don't have any applications for that now. It would be in a separate building order.
So I want to understand something. If they have more than 40 acres, well, what if that more than 40 acres is in a different quarter?
if you
tie them
own,
together?
if you own 40 contiguous acres, and you want to build a house on that 40 contiguous acres, wherever you pick to put that house, it has, if it's in a, whatever quarter it's in, it's got to be the only house in that quarter, but you could theoretically have 4 houses right pretty close together, because you'd have 4 quarters, yeah. If, provided no other houses, of course.
But if this lot in question is in a different quarter than the other contiguous property, this doesn't go into here for house purpose, or does it?
It does for calculating their acreage, it does, but they still could not build within that same quarter.
Okay, so they could build up here, but they can't.
Yeah, if you look right here, and I guess I'll just hold this up. This little clearing, this is a little bench here. This is the area which, if they were ever to try to build the Thorsons, that's the area they identified. It would likely occur, that's where they're likely to apply to build. So it would be an access drive over here, maybe, but it's in a different quarter, and it would be within the requirements of the
So by
ordinance.
splitting this and selling it, then whoever owns this is gonna be all right. No house can go here, but they maintain it so they got access to where they're going, okay.
Correct, in terms of complying with the ordinance with these splits, the applicant is very proactive in making sure that they're doing things in compliance. I guess I haven't been here for long, but this is the first time this has occurred, to my knowledge, before the split's taken place.
It's just a heads up for all of you to think about.
I'm struggling with what they're trying to do. She doesn't need a conditional use permit. If they get one, does that say, well, if I want to build something else, I'm ready to go? If they wanted to replace the house, I mean, what does this get for?
They're going to be selling the parcel, so that house is going to be sold.
Okay.
But that doesn't buy them anything. What does it get them?
Actually, Pete Peterson's been up here, we can ask him some questions. Here he is.
Do you have some questions?
Welcome, come up to the microphone, Pete, yeah. You have a map working at, probably, do you? So, explain to us what the Thorsons are planning to do here. Now, the Thorsons own this property right now, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Well, it's just Peggy or Margaret or Thorson.
okay.
Yeah,
And so they have, what, 100 and some acres or 200 acres or whatever?
no, she's got about 300.
Okay. And so what you're looking at doing is selling off the building site? No, it isn't.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. I
okay.
run into this all the time.
Yeah,
Because
right.
people can't afford the whole thing anymore.
Right. So roughly how many acres are?
25.
25 acres.
Yeah, we've had it surveyed.
Okay, you have. And so is the survey represented by these blue lines? Is that what it is?
Yes, pretty,
No.
No, it's not.
No, no.
It's not.
We were waiting for
And
it.
the survey, I just got the survey.
Okay.
I don't have it with me
Okay.
because it was just emailed to me. And then I sent the email on to the lawyers so that they could get the title work done.
Okay.
Yep,
So,
I know where it is, I mean, I could drive
yeah,
it
no,
very easily.
no, that's fine. But, so what she's doing is preparing this property and get the permits for it so it can be sold off separately.
Correct.
Okay.
And we've already had, we had everybody out there from the soil conservation and from zoning to view the land alongside of it, because there is a road that actually accesses, there you see it. I don't know how many of you, if you have a map or not.
Yes, we do.
You see where the name Margaret is?
Right.
And then A after it?
Right.
You see that right there? That's a road coming in. And
What's it?
it's a field road.
Coming into that property
Yeah.
also? Yeah.
So we had the county view that for access to land that's being retained.
Okay. Okay, and so the parcel that's surveyed off is going to have the 150-foot frontage and all of that, obviously, if you haven't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well over that.
well over that, down on Highway 70, County 4.
County board.
County 4, yeah.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And so how far back off the County 4 is that building site, just roughly?
125 yards?
Yeah, not much more than that.
No more than that, yeah. No more than that.
Okay,
And then keep in mind that the land behind it back there, that would be a difficult building site. That was, she's retaining, in the very back, she's retaining 202 acres. And that, I don't see that ever becoming a building site.
so if she sells it off as 25 acres, will that land become landlocked then, or not?
No.
She still have access to it?
No, because what we did, you see TT Road there on your left-hand side? If you're looking at your map. TT Road is the,
Oh, okay.
you see where John and Melanie
Yeah, right.
Dory are?
Right,
Okay, that blue line there?
Okay.
That blue line is TT Road, which is
Okay.
a township road.
okay,
That road's about a mile long. That goes back to Jake Weezer's. Before you get to Jake Weezer's, before you get off the township road, there is an access there that we did some land trading with Jake Weezer. We also got Jake Weezer to groom it. I mean, it's nice and level and everything. That will be the access to the 200 acres. of
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And it's a much nicer access and no busyness of road or anything like that, so it fits the bill pretty good.
Okay, so this will be the only dwelling in this quarter when we split it,
Quarter section?
Yeah, it's the only dwelling currently in the quarter.
Yeah,
Okay.
only that would be allowed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I commend you for coming in and getting this straightened out before the deal goes through.
Well, it was one of those requests and
Yeah,
they would tell you, I'm pretty fussy about how I do this. I'm actually kind of rare compared to other realtors. I don't mind your 40-acre rule. People call it that. It's
Yeah.
not a 40-acre rule.
yeah, it's quarter.
Yeah, it's quarter section rule,
Yeah.
but most of the public does not understand that, just so that you know. They believe they have to buy 40 acres. And then what I run across so much in the county, because I sell a lot of rural land, is a farmer might sell them 10 acres and say, yeah, this is buildable. And then after the fact, they come to me and it's not buildable because there's another house in the quarter section. And it could have been done so simply if, they would have talked with them at the zoning office or dealt with someone like me or whatever, way before, then they wouldn't have the problem.
Well, this is gonna be the only residence in the quarter?
Yes, it is.
And it is now.
Yeah, yeah.
See, I'm struggling again, what are we doing?
It's going to be, okay.
You can, if you're the only one in a quarter, you can get 5 acres and you can build a house. You gotta get a conditional use permit,
Right.
but it's already built. Why do we need a conditional use permit?
Well, I think that it's giving some assurances to the buyers that they're buying a conforming lot, not a non-conforming lot, so that if they want to come in and get a permit for an addition or a shed or something, they don't have to worry that they have to deal with straightening out the conformity or the conformance of their lot, like we just dealt with in the prior hearing, where they want to tear down their house and build a new house. They need to bring their property into compliance before we'll issue them a permit. Here, we're doing that before we even have
But
the
it would
property
be,
change.
but it would be in compliance.
It'd be not.
That's the only one, yeah.
If we not conform,
But
It would, but I came before this committee, I believe, a year and a half ago or something, because I built a new house. I would have, at that time, I have more now, but I had 14.7 acres. So you see, I'm non-conforming. I have less than the 40, you know.
See, that's
so
not,
it's-
that's not non-conforming.
listen, Larry, right now, it's on 40 contiguous acres.
I understand.
Okay, when it goes to less than that, it needs to have a control. Otherwise, it's not.
It needs to have a conditional use permit when you build.
Correct.
Obviously, they're not building.
No, when you split also, Larry. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
our concern here on this was, let's say the party down the road would like to add on to that house. Okay? We didn't want that to be an obstacle being a non-conforming property. See? Now, whether it was or wasn't then, I can't answer that. Only zoning office can answer that, you know, with the graces of you people. But
But
it
you're
still
saying,
would not fall into the right category.
but you're saying if this is described as a non-conforming use and they got a conditional use permit for it, then you can write a zoning permit for an addition.
Then it's not non-conforming.
It becomes conforming at that point.
Yeah, I think that.
Really?
When you get it done.
If they would meet all the
Well,
requirements.
I guess I didn't realize you could get a conditional use permit and now it becomes conforming.
Zoning requires that you get a conditional use permit if
To
you
build.
if you have a structure of less than 40 acres. It becomes a non-farm dwelling if it's located on less than 40 acres. That requires a cup. If you don't have a cup, it's non-conforming. If it's non-conforming, you can't build, expand, or go on. So
If you get a conditional use permit, you can build or do anything you want.
Once you get it,
Yeah.
you still need
Really?
building permits.
Yeah.
Yeah, zoning.
But then it's not considered non-conforming anymore.
Once he gets his cup, he's conforming to the zoning
Really?
laws. You're non-conforming to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
zoning laws. So if he gets a cup, he's conforming to the zoning laws.
I wasn't aware of that.
Also, Dan, once they get this conditional use permit, then if they want to build a shed or anything else, they go in just like the zoning permits that we okayed just a little while ago.
Really?
As long as they have.
And they still have to get,
Yeah, I just didn't
Setbacks,
realize
setbacks.
you could do something to make a non-conforming use conforming.
Absolutely, that's what we're trying to do with our minds, get our non-conforming minds to be
And
conforming.
where that enters in too is that, let's say that, this house, when they added to this house, because they did in 2002 or 3, when they added to it, they had to meet the requirements at that time. Now, I'll tell you, I'm running into just a horrible case now. FEMA just has made a mess out of everything. And so I'm having to deal with FEMA with everybody in the floodplain now, and I've got all these poor people in the county that have a non-selling property now.
I understand. I just didn't realize that
Yeah.
you could change a non-conforming to conforming.
Right. No, what I was pointing
Something I
out there
didn't know,
though,
yeah.
is that this house, when they did approve the addition on it, it had to meet the requirements of the county as far as elevation, which means that the new addition could have no basement in it. It could only have a crawl space due to the elevations out there. So there's those categories also And we have been talking about the entire town of Sheldon is now, is, however I want to say it. Still is in the floodplain.
Or, I'm sorry, the proposed floodplain. It's
In the
not-
proposed floodplain, yes. But the banks are using the map that says proposed at the top. Well, it's a horrible thing for everybody in the county because flood insurance, by example, is typically about, well, it varies from place to place, but flood insurance is only written by FEMA. No matter what insurance company you're dealing with, FEMA writes the policy and they're the only one, which that questions me on antitrust laws. But they write it, and it's typically going to be $2,000 to $3,000 a year that you're going to pay for flood insurance. So you see the difference, like if that ever comes before you.
Now, there's things you can do to mitigate that though, with your property, is there not? I mean, if you had some kind of flood dikes or retaining or whatever, to keep the water out.
Yeah, it's just most of those don't apply for the rural living
Yeah.
party. They
Yeah.
apply in places like Houston,
Yeah.
where they have the dike around, but they had to go through, I have lots for sale in Houston, they had to go through a long and-depth process to bring those out of the floodplain also.
Yeah.
And costly, they just were able to group it together. And that's what we've talked with zoning on. You can't bring one individual property to FEMA down in Texas.
Yeah.
You've got to bring a separate entity that is larger.
Yeah. Of course, in 2010, when we had the floods, FEMA came in and gave millions to the county, but
Not to the private individual.
not to the private individual, but to the county, yeah, right.
Correct.
But if the county, so then the county, in turn, we can't approve new buildings
Your hands
in
are
the
so tied.
floodplain, yeah, because otherwise we may not qualify for federal aid if we had another disaster.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not sure about that, but it's,
He's doing a good job of reviewing
yeah,
the area and trying to bring certain things to their attention, like Sheldon. Because I think we all know, I drove through Sheldon in 2008, 2007, both. There was no water in Sheldon. It was down in the lowland area.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay, but one thing I will mention, and Bob, I'll get you in just a second, but one thing that we're going to be discussing, and I'm not sure we're going to discuss it in June here, but one thing we need to look at would be the 150-foot frontage along these highways. Because with these splits, not all of them are going to end up in 153-foot frontage. So that our ordinance right now reads you need 150-foot road frontage. So we may have to consider just a 33-foot cartway or something if your house is back so far. I'm just throwing that out for you guys to think about. We'll discuss this later at meetings coming up, but
it's something I would.
you should come to our public
Yeah,
hearing.
no, I'm
and
more
we
than
would-
welcome to come because I think you can put other stipulations on there
Okay,
that will disallow everyone coming in and saying, I got 33 feet, so I can build a house. I think you can put some other stipulations on that.
yeah.
I think they're allowing lanes as well.
Right.
And they're actually getting, the county is allowing a lane, and it's getting its designation as a lane. It's not maintained by the county or the township, but it's there for fire purposes. It will be on the maps for the fire department.
Yes, yes. I think what's brought on this whole scenario is the fact that we used to be able to sell farms and they were reasonably priced. And a number of people would have the opportunity to buy them. That doesn't occur today. Most of the farms that I go to are too big. And there aren't enough buyers out there to purchase their land, so we have more and more owners. I call land poor farmers. I go to their place, here's mom and dad, they live on the farm. They don't have any money. The farm is paid for. None of the kids want to sell the farm, remember, that's common. But they need money, so they'd like to sell a piece of the farm. Well, now see, this is where this comes up. When I sit down with them and I go over what the requirements are, their pieces to sell are very, very reduced. And
Very,
it's
very
not-
what?
Yeah,
Very what?
they're reduced
Oh,
as
yeah.
far as
Okay.
what they could sell, because some of them, the frontage they maybe have is not feasible because it's like this. You know, and there's what's brought this on. It's no individual that's brought it on, it's economy. And if you can kind of go in with an open mind and try to see how you can help these people in this situation, but yet keep some of your guidelines. Don't abandon them totally, you know, so.
Bob, you got a question?
Back on page 1, or for the overview, it says, Sheldon Township was notified of the application, the 10 nearest neighbors were notified of the application. When it says 10 nearest neighbors, is that neighbors that are residents or neighbors that are property owners?
Property owners.
Just the property, okay.
Is that also the quarter mile?
It's in a radius.
Yeah, but probably,
I might go out farther, just so I have 10. I'm supposed to have 10.
oh, you have 10.
Yeah.
But what if there's 10 within 500 feet? Do we have a
They're out,
minimum
if you're out
distance?
in an ag area, there's only one house per quarter.
Well, like when they put the cell tower up out there, I notified everybody back in that housing area. back
Don't you do a quarter mile
for
radius?
addition. Huh?
Don't you do a quarter mile radius?
Generally, that's what you go by.
Yeah,
You want to have
okay.
at least 10.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But you
Yeah,
said the
what do I
Frank-
want
you
tonight?
said- You said the Frank addition, and that's an example, that's
I notified everybody.
residential area, somebody just outside of that, would you go the other direction to the quarter
Yeah,
mile?
you know.
But the reason I asked that question, I'm assuming these lines typify a 40. The boundary lines,
Yeah, the like kind of pinkish squares.
right, yep, highlighted in blue and some pink and whatnot. So in this scenario, and I know Marilyn Jory's land is in a flood district, but because that house that's being parceled and then sold is in that 40, Marilyn couldn't build a house if she wasn't in the flood, but there could not be a house built on her property
Correct.
because it's in that quarter. That's what you were alluding to, is people with land within that quarter are tied because of the fact that there's already a house in there.
Correct. You can have two houses that are, you can have them within 200 yards of each other. And they each own an acre of land, but they might be in different quarter sections. It just renders the adjoining 39 acres in both parcels unbuildable right now.
So we'll take care of that in our urban development.
Okay.
And this is the same thing is true for Margaret, within that quarter, the property she still owns, she isn't gonna be able to build on because of the other house.
Within that quarter.
She could use it to access to get to her other land instead of going back to Weezer.
Yeah,
But
yeah. The reason I have them out is that I never want to sell a property where to get to the property beyond it, you drive right through the yard. I don't like that. And so that's why we have county out to look at an alternative road right there to get to her property that she's retaining. She's retaining about 60 acres.
Well, again, I commend you for doing that. We've had people come in that have bought property like that, and they don't even have legal access to it.
Right, right.
Then they want a building permit, and they,
Yeah. And the state law, and I learned this a few years ago here, is that the state law, you must have 5 acres
they,
to be forced to be able to have access to it.
yeah.
Turned out an elderly lady had 2.5. It threw your county in quandary because she had to give up the land because the county wouldn't pay for her staying at the nursing home anymore, and she needed them to pay it. But they wouldn't pay it because she owned land. Well, she didn't have access to her land. So we tried, I worked with an attorney, and we tried to get access. Can't get access because she had 2.5 acres. So I came in and talked to your GIS people. Sure enough, there was only 2.5 acres, and it was totally landlocked. And the county didn't know what to do because they didn't want it.
Yeah, if the neighbors don't willingly give her access, then she can't force it unless she has 5 acres.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
What do I, go to a neighbor, try to get the neighbor to buy it? He's smart at all. What is he gonna pay? Nothing.
Yeah.
See, but we did give it to the county. And I don't know that they even have it anymore. I think it just kind of disappeared to the neighbors or something like that.
Just so somebody's paid taxes on it, that's all.
She had paid like $9 taxes every year for
Right.
years, so, yeah.
Okay, any other questions on this application? Okay, any more comments? Pete? Okay. Aaron, you want to read the criteria?
I'm not going to read all the ones that
Okay.
are not applicable in this
Okay.
case, I'll just read the ones that apply.
Thanks for the heads up. Okay.
Number one, that the proposed use conforms to the county land use plan. In this case, the proposal conforms with the plan's goal of preserving agricultural land and that no additional agricultural land will be utilized. The application merely changes the classification of the site. That the applicant demonstrates a need for the proposed use. This covers needed for the site to remain in compliance with the county's zoning ordinance. And number 15, the site-specific conditions and such other conditions are established as required for the protection of the public's health, safety, morals, and general welfare. And in this case, this dwelling has existed in this location for more than 100 years. No material changes are proposed or will change in the classification given to the site.
Okay, so I have a question. So let's say you sell this property now, and this home is 1901. So the people that buy the property want to build a new home. Now they're going to have to build over the flood zone. They can't build in the same footprint, can they?
Well, if we continue the way we have tonight, in that we're saying if we think that the use has already been permitted on the location, and we just did that for the Kingsleys and in this case, Ms. Storson here, because you can't have a non-farm dwelling in a floodplain. We aren't giving them permission to put these uses, the use is already established, we're just changing the criteria.
So for Kingsley's wasn't in the floodplain.
It was on class 2 soil.
Class 2 soils. Yeah, but
You do
we can
have-
address that. That's easy to address.
Yeah, you do have a factor here that you would have to meet the criteria to be out of the floodplain. No one's gonna build there knowing they gotta pay flood insurance.
Oh, okay.
So.
It's
then
kind of
it
self-limiting,
must-
huh?
Right, that's kind of self-defeating, yeah. So then you have to meet the criteria to be out of the floodplain,
Yeah.
which then everybody's happy
Yeah.
because no basement could be put in there. You'd have to be, we're at that 710, 712 foot level there, which is real, that's the gray area.
That's true, actually. The addition that was put on, that's in the floodplain, but it wouldn't have triggered flood insurance because they were 1 foot above the base flood elevation.
If that house, and that house is requiring flood insurance, by the way, but if that house were the entire house, they should have built it different. In 2002 and 3, when they made the addition like they did, and the house I don't see in our lifetimes, it's going to come down because it's a nice addition. But if they would have gotten rid of the old basement and just filled it in, and then conformed with the new, which is a foot above the outside dirt, which takes it out of the floodplain, we wouldn't even have a floodplain issue. But Larry, who's not alive anymore, Larry wanted to keep that part of the old basement. And it was a downfall, so, too bad, yeah.
So they're close enough to the floodplain, the elevation, that they could build a house legally. It would not be.
If they met the criteria
Correct,
of FEMA's
right.
to be out of the floodplain.
But no basement.
Correct, that's all I
They
mean.
couldn't have-
No basement,
No,
yes.
I don't know though, we would have to look more closely at that. It would still be within the floodplain. It would just be at an elevation where for insurance purposes, it wouldn't be flood insurance. But in terms of how our ordinance states that non-farm dwellings will not be in the floodplain, we have to take a closer look at that before we.
Now, FEMA's come out with new flood maps, I think.
Yes, we'll be dealing with those within the next, probably about 2 months from now. I'll be asking you to adopt it. The maps right now, Pete and some other folks are.
For everyone's interest, I had a legislator talk to me last year about it, and he said, you do realize that FEMA went broke, and the government had to bail them out. So FEMA's building their coffers, so they have money. So, so they're charging a lot for flood insurance now, and they've got a lot of properties that are in the floodplain now that were never in the floodplain previously. Some of them rightfully so.
Well, I just dealt with FEMA myself, see, my mortgage lender said I was in the floodplain according to the FEMA maps. Well, I said in 2007, I didn't have a drop of water in my basement. Well, I had to go through the whole process of getting a surveyor, do an elevation study. Turns out my basement is 17 feet above the floodplain. But I couldn't tell FEMA that until I had a surveyor approve.
Part of that is because FEMA are in their offices in Texas, and they look at aerial maps. And the elevation drop off, we sold a house on, what do you call it, Garden Heights, over in Winona. It was in the floodplain. FEMA came back and said it was in the floodplain. But, in a little defense for them, if you see some of those houses that are out near the edge of the cliff, that you can't do anymore, it is not far from that house to the water's edge in distance. And that's why FEMA has trouble, because they're in Texas. And they're looking at a map. And so, yeah, that
Well,
doesn't
I
surprise
read
me.
them, so, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. By the way, when you do that, you don't want to go through the bank's person to do that. You want to go through your own individual surveyor, because the bank is going to charge you $750. And your own surveyor is going to charge you a lot less to do that. And he does the same thing. So,
Any other questions on the criteria? Okay, we have no questions on the criteria, no other questions or comments. I'd ask for a motion on reading of minutes.
I'll make a motion to do that.
Okay, motion by Ed, seconded by Rick, to recommend that this application be approved. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries.
thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Our meeting, we have a meeting on June 16th, Pete, regarding some ordinance changes.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, we got everything taken care of. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Jim to adjourn. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.